Hey, Money Masters, welcome to the Wealthy. This is episode number 46. I think that's what it is. It should be, yes, it's episode number 46. I am Lexi Johnson. I am your financial strategist, wealth coach for women, and super excited because what we do at Money Mastery for her is we learn how to build wealth God's way. And of course, when you do it God's way, right, it's not something that's temporary, it is something that is sustainable. In fact, it's something that can last throughout third and fourth generation, right? As the Bible promises. So today, we're back on it. Normally, we have our crazy bunny story, and then we have our topic of the day, which our topic of today is the danger, or the week, I should say, because I only do the podcast weekly, right? The dangers of financial stress. We're going to talk about that today. It's important. Of course, we're going to cover some upcoming um, upcoming events, and that's that, right? So, as you are coming into the room, let me know who you are, where you're watching from. Um, Engage with me, right? I love it when people engage, ask your questions, just put them there in the comments. If for some reason I do not see your question while we're live, don't worry. I will see it later on when I come back through and check the chat. Okay. Because there are some of the platforms I think that I may not be able to see the comments. All right. But anyway, let's get to our crazy money story for this week. And this week is not a crazy money story. But instead, I just am going to give my thoughts on something that has taken place. And normally, I don't really get into these kinds of things because they can really be distractions. However, this time, I did follow this story on the Montgomery riverboat incident, right? And so, first of all, I got to say, like I said, I normally don't get distracted by this stuff. I got to say, I don't condone violence. I don't condone racism in any shape, way, or form. But I want y'all to know that you all are some very creative people, okay? The memes, the songs, the shorts, the reels, the paintings, the products that are coming from this. I'm like, there are some people who are going to make a nice penny from this. And that's great, right? Because that's what capitalism allows you to do, right? And that's a good thing. But what I hope is that we can look deeper into the situation for um, messages, right? And I'm going to share with you just one of the things that I was grateful for as it related to this event. And I'm just going to share one. One of the things that I was grateful for was the fact that everybody lived to tell the story. We live in a day and age where people are very quick to pick up weapons. They're very quick to pick up guns. They're very quick to pick up knives. And I remember when I was growing up, maybe this may tell my age or so, but when I was growing up, really, um, if you were going to fight someone, it was really the hands. That was it, right? And as I got into high school, I think my later years of high school, then you started to see like the razors and knives. And then, of course, where we are today, we've got young people. And when I say young people, I mean young people. Some as young as 12 and 13, with weapons. And so, what I was grateful for about this event was that everybody lived to tell the story on both sides, right? Like it was a good old fashioned, we just throwing hands, right? And like I said, I don't condone violence, but if it comes to that, then I'm grateful that no one was pulling weapons. I'm grateful that everybody left that event live. And so that's one of the things that I'm grateful for as it relates to that event. That's all that I'm going to say. You got to know me to know the rest of what I think about it. But I will share that. So let's get into our topic for today. Our topic for today, and again, as you're coming in, let me know who you are, where you're watching from. We'd love to acknowledge you. Our topic for today is the dangers of financial stress. The dangers of financial stress. I wanted to address this today because over the last several weeks, as I have been having consultations, um, both with current clients, prospective clients, um, just people in general, people in my life in general, many have been talking about stress due to finances. And many people had various different financial issues and various different financial concerns. And so, yeah, I wanted to address that, right? All right, I had my door open for a little while, y'all, and this fly is bothering me. So if y'all see me waving, I'm not crazy. Okay, I'm not crazy. Anyway, I want to talk about financial stress, the dangers of it, because we often don't really think about the stress that comes with finances and the effects of that stress. A lot of times we think about stress in other areas and all of that, but when it comes to finances, I don't know what it is about finances, but we seem to just kind of put it on a shelf all on its own. And so, yeah, let's get to it. Okay. Um, it's, it shouldn't be a secret to many of you that there are many, many people in this world. Okay. So, not just in America, but in this world who are overwhelmed with money concerns. And that's me putting it nicely. It's really more than just money concerns, it's money worry. Um, Worry to the point that it is consuming every aspect of a person's life, right? And so today I wanted to address this because I want you to know that whatever your circumstances, wherever you are as it relates to your money and these tough economic times, I want you to know that it is possible to ease the stress, right? We can't eliminate stress completely from our lives because stress is just part of life. But you can ease the stress, right? You can ease the anxiety and by regaining control of your finances. And it is definitely possible to regain control of your finances. And one of the things that I'm going to do after I talk about some of these effects of stress as it relates to your finances, I'm going to give you some tips that is going to show you that, yeah, you can have control over your finances if you would like, right? So, let's talk about this. So, the American Psychological Association says that 72% of Americans feel stressed about money at least some of the time, right? So, again, there are people on varying levels. They stress about it some of the time, and you've got people who are stressed about it just about all of the time. And I really, really feel for people in that situation. And because it's 72% of the people, that means that many of you that are watching are probably somewhere on this continuum. And let me tell you, I can relate. Many of you who have followed me for a while, you've heard my story. Those of you who are new to me may not yet have heard my story. But I had, long story short, I'm not going to give the whole story today, but long story short, I was in a position where I was over $300,000 worth in debt, had just gone through divorce, lost a job, filed bankruptcy, lost a home, lost a car, and so many other things financially. So many other devastating things financially that were going on in this same period of time. And so I know what it feels like to be consumed with worry about your finances. You're worried about, maybe your next meal. Maybe you have children. Maybe you're married. Maybe you're not married, right? And you've got to figure out how to feed the mouths that you have on your own. Maybe you're feeling like there's no way out. All the walls are closing in. I can really relate to all of that, because that period that I just talked to you about, all those devastating things that happened to me financially between 2008 and 2011 had me stressed out. And that stress manifested in a lot of different ways that I'm going to share with you today. And I want to share this with you because in case you are experiencing it or you are on the path to experiencing these things, we want to prevent that, right? Or we want to reverse it, turn that thing around. Okay. So I want you to know that I can relate, because oftentimes we feel like we're the only one that may have that problem. And because in our culture, and when I say our culture, I'm not talking necessarily about race, I'm talking about uh, wealthy versus not wealthy. In our culture, or the culture of the not wealthy, it is not normal to talk about your financial circumstances, good or bad. We're taught that we are not to share, hey, mom, how are you? We're taught that we're not to, talk about how much we make. We're not, we just don't talk about money. We don't talk about our bills. We don't talk about, any of those things, right? And we really don't talk about that stuff. If you have children, we really don't talk about it to the children at all, because we feel like we want to shield them, we want to protect them, or we just don't feel like they're old enough, or it's just none of their business, maybe is what we feel like, right? So we have this culture of it's not okay to talk about your finances, which then lends itself to people who are going through things financially, but they will not speak up, okay, because of the shame, because of the guilt, because of the, whatever other feelings that are coming along with that. And we all know that when you tend to keep things inside, right? When you bottle things inside, you go outside, you put on this facade like everything is okay. It begins to eat away at you, right? From the inside out. And I mean, spiritually, physically, mentally, it begins to eat at you from the inside out. So I wanted to talk today about these problems, right? And how to deal with financial stress. Um, Whether it started with a loss of work, whether you have escalating debt, whether you have unexpected expenses, or a combination, as I shared in my brief story, I had all of that going on in that period of time, 2008 to 2011, right? So financial worry is a common thing. And I think that if we were comfortable in sharing, and I'm not saying we got to go out and share with the whole world, right? Like you may not be like me, who speaks on stages nationally and internationally, and I'm sharing my story. That may not be what you're called to do. However, you may be good sharing sharing the story, with your child, sharing the story with someone, one-on-one, whoever God leads you to share it with, or you're the person that's needing help and you need to reach out and speak to someone trusted. And we're going to talk about that too in a moment. So this overwhelming stress created by finances, if it is left unchecked, okay, it's going to harm your overall quality of life. Okay. Money worries can impact your sleep. In fact, 90% is the number. According to a study that I saw the other day, 90% of people who are having money issues, it's impacting their sleep. So all the worry and, the constant thinking, trying to figure out, and a lot of times not even trying to figure out how to get out of the situation. It's just the constant focus on the past. How did I get here? Oh, woe is me, all of that, right? And you're not necessarily thinking about or allowing your brain to be creative and help you to find ways out. So that constant thinking about your money problems leads to a lack of sleep. It also leads to low self-esteem, right? Because, if you're unable to pay your bills, you're walking into the store and you got to check every 2 minutes what's on your account. You got to calculate everything you put in the cart because you only have this amount of money, or you're trying to decide, okay, I got this amount of money. How much do I spend on groceries? How much can I put in the gas tank? And oh, by the way, my child is going on a field trip in their school, and I don't want them to be the only one not going on the trip, right? So these things can cause um, self esteem issues. They can also cause problems with your energy levels. I got to a point, where I was depressed, right? Not even wanting to really do much. And I just did, at some points, I just did whatever I needed to do to just barely function for the day, right? And so it can affect your energy levels. It can affect your emotions. You can be angry, you can be fearful, you can be ashamed, you can feel guilty, you could be tense, right? There are so many people who, are having interactions with people and then they just flip out and people are like, what is going on? Right. But they don't know that you have all of this stress going on, and this stress because of that, because we're talking about finances, stress related to finances, right? It could lead to arguments. Okay. Arguments with people closest to you. And this is why they say, even in marriages, right, that in marriages, this is like the number two or number one, depending on whose study you look at. It's like the number two, number one, or the number three reason why marriages don't last, right? Because of the stress of money. So it can have effect on your relationships. It can have an effect on your relationships with your children and all of that, right? Mood swings, pain, right? I mean, like, not just emotional pain, right? But even that can then lend itself to physical pain. You may, if the stress is left unchecked, resort to some unhealthy coping mechanisms, right? So, drinking, substances, gambling, any of these things to try to escape your worries, even though these escapes are temporary, right? And because they're temporary, these are how these things become an addiction. Because you while you are drinking or on drugs or gambling or whatever, the worries are gone. And so in order for you to not deal with the worries, then you have to stay in this constant space of drinking and taking drugs and all of that, right? So because the moment that you come down from those things, guess what? Those worries are still there. Those stressors are still there. Um, these thoughts, financial stress, if not checked, can also lead to suicidal thoughts or actions. Can I tell you, I've been there, right? Again, if you ever get the opportunity to hear my whole story, I even talk about, that thought of not wanting to be here because of the financial duress that I was in, right? But what I want to share with you today, that no matter how hopeless you think your situation is, right? No matter how hopeless, there is help available. You can get control of your money issues, and you can find a way, right? There are examples after examples after examples of people who have shown that it can be done. And these are not people who were born with money. These are people who were born with not too much to their name, just like many of you, right? So let's talk about this. Let's talk about some more of these effects, physical effects I want to talk about. So insomnia, we talked about the sleep difficulties, right? Keeps you tossing and turning at night. Weight gain or loss. For some people with stress can disrupt their appetite, right? Some people will overeat, okay? Some people won't eat. And I know for me, anytime I'm under stress, I have to be very intentional about eating. I am a person who will not eat. I am a person, if you've ever met me in person, I am already small. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm a good buck 25 on a good day, right? And so for me not to eat, I mean, I can, like that, 10 pounds gone, right? So I have to be very mindful, be very intentional that even though I'm feeling a way, that I need to eat. Others are on the opposite end, right? They may overeat when they're feeling stress. We talked about depression already, right? Um, we talked about that anxiety, money anxiety. So money, to some people, can be a safety net. So if you don't have it, you feel anxious, or if you feel like you're going to run out of it, you feel anxious, because anxiety is about events, the what ifs, things that have not occurred yet. Depression is about things that have already occurred. Okay. So you're anxious about things that haven't even happened yet, and probably likely are not going to happen. Right. But that's anxiety, that pounding heartbeat, the sweating, the shaking, the panic attacks. And for me, even the passing out. Right. So again, these things are very dangerous if they are left unchecked. Okay, we talked about relationship issues already. If we go a little deeper in marriage relationships, you're angry, you're irritable, there's a loss of interest in sex, and there is a constant chipping away of the foundation that was built. I mean, even for the strongest of relationships, even for the strongest of relationships, you can be a person maybe who socially withdraws. And I know at one point in my life that was the case, right? It caused me to kind of withdraw from friends and family. Now, like I said, I was functional, right? I would go to work, okay? If I had a role to play, a duty to fulfill at church or something like that, I'll be there. But that was it. You wouldn't find me doing much else outside of that, right? I would retreat into my own shell, okay, which doesn't do anything for your stress, right? Then there are physical things like headaches, gastrointestinal problems, even diabetes. Probably like, diabetes, what? Yes, even diabetes. People think it's simply, because of the way you eat or this or that or whatever. No, a lot of the conditions that we have is oftentimes just caused by stress that aggravates something, that aggravates something else, that aggravates something else, right? So high blood pressure, heart disease, any of these things, right? And so then once you start getting into those things, and if those things are not being dealt with, like, you can see how serious this can get, right? Even all the way up until death. So we have to be very, very mindful of all of these things, right? And we have to know and understand that our financial health is connected to our mental health. Okay. I don't care what people say. There might be some people out there that say, no, it's not. Every area of our life is interconnected. And so our financial health affects our mental health. Hello, Apostle, good to see you. Our mental health affects our financial health, period. Okay. So we have to be mindful that these things affect one another. The stress of debt, okay, can leave you feeling depressed and anxious, as we talked about. This is how we know these things are intertwined. Okay. And once we know you get into those stages where you're anxious or you're depressed or whatever's going on, then you have, it's harder for you to manage your money. Okay. Because you're in the midst of all this depression and anxiety and all whatever else, you can't see clear of that stuff. So it makes it harder for you to manage your money, which then leads to more financial issues and more problems. It's just like this vicious cycle that goes on and on and on and on and on. And so you feel like you're trapped. You feel like you're drowning. And you feel like there's no way out, right? And so again, I want to tell you that no matter how hopeless you think your situation is, there is a way out. There is a way out, and there are strategies that can help you break this vicious cycle. There are strategies that can help you to break poverty mindset. Because really, honestly, people, poverty is not about the dollars that you have in your hand. The dollars you have in hand is a physical manifestation of what's going on in here, right? So poverty is a state of mind. That's what poverty is. It is a state of mind that can manifest itself physically. Okay. But there are ways to deal with that. There are definitely ways to deal with that. So I want to give you some tips today, maybe about 4, 5 of them. Let's see, I don't want to be here too long, but tip number one, talk to somebody. Okay. I said at the top of this that in our culture, we tend to teach that you don't talk about money. There are certain things that you just don't talk about: religion, money, politics. Like, we just don't talk about these things because in our collective experience, it causes a lot of tension, right? But we already know what happens when you keep these things to yourself. You bottle it up, right? You implode and then you explode. Okay. So we don't want that happening, right? So you will want to find someone, and it might feel awkward, right? At first, to disclose things to someone that you are going through. It may feel really awkward. You might have feelings of guilt or shame and, embarrassment about financial mistakes that you've made or financial decisions that weren't the greatest decisions, right? But keeping it all to yourself will only make things worse. And then you can't get the help that you need. There's this old saying, like, the squeaky wheel gets the oil, right? And that is so true. Okay. If you ain't out there squeaking your wheel, right, you're likely not going to get the help that you need. And sometimes the help is all around you. You're hearing it. This podcast, you're hearing it, right? But you are embarrassed or too ashamed to raise your hand and say, hey, I need help, right? Or too embarrassed or ashamed of what people may be thinking about you. I just got to a point where I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. Okay. And so I got to a point where, you know what? I'm just going to start raising my hand and telling folks, this is what I'm going through. I mean, what harm can it do? I'm already, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm already feeling as worse as I could possibly feel. What harm could it do? The things when you begin to open your mouth, and again, I'm not saying that you go and tell the whole entire world, but as you begin to confide in someone that you trust, you start to feel better, number one. Number two, that person may be able to relate. Or number three, even better, they may be able to connect you with someone who can be of even more help or provide some resources, right? And it's not that everyone who you talk to has to provide a solution. Sometimes a listening ear is just the greatest thing, but then they can go on, right? And then one day they might hear something that will be beneficial to you. And because you've shared with them, they can call you and say, hey, I just came across XYZ. It made me think about you. Here is this resource, right? So we have to get to a place where we are vulnerable. And again, like I said, I'm not saying the whole world, be vulnerable with the whole world, but we have got to find a trusted friend or loved one that we can speak to openly about our financial problems. All right. So that it helps us to keep things in perspective, right? So once again, this person that you talk to, they don't have to be able to fix it, okay, or offer financial help. It's just sometimes getting it off your chest is a good thing for you, right? They don't even have to be thinking about how they can ease your burden. They just need to be willing. You just need to be willing to talk things out, right? Without judgment or without criticism, right? And then when you are talking about your situation, be honest about what you're going through, right? I can't tell you the number of people who I have had to set up consultations, right? And it's a great thing that they have set up the consultation. But in the consultation, they're not being completely honest. And I can tell because I've lived it, right? I've already lived it. And they're not being completely honest. And the thing is, if you aren't completely honest, transparent, vulnerable with me, how do I help you? I cannot, right? If you still want to put on like you've got it all together, right? But you're here talking to me, but you got it all together, but you're here talking to me, but you got it all together. How do I help, or how does someone like me help? Right? So we have to learn how to be honest about what we're going through financially and the emotions that you're experiencing. Okay. Don't sit there thinking like you just got this, right? Be vulnerable about those things. Find a trusted friend or, a trusted loved one. And like I said, they may not be able to, to fix it, but getting it off your chest, can be of huge help. Now, then the next level of there is, okay, now I need to look for the professional that can help me. Someone where I can get the professional advice as it relates to finances, right? And so again, that's what I'm saying here. When you go to consult with someone, financial coach or advisor or a strategist or whomever, again, being completely honest and being vulnerable, and then also know and understand the type of financial professional that you need. Listen, I've been a combination of all of these things. And I'm going to tell you, like, financial advisors, they're not there to really hear about your feelings and all that kind of stuff. They're just like, what money do you want to invest so I can manage it for you and go on about your business, right? So it's very rare that you might find one where you can sit down and just really talk through all of this stuff, right? But then you have, financial coaches, right? Or consultants who are open to hearing exactly how you're feeling, right? And addressing those things, right? So you've got to seek the right professional to help you. But not only this person just kind of help you work through mindset stuff, but then also help you practically as it comes to your finances, what you're doing day to day in your finances, helping you put systems in place so that you can begin to address the things that are causing the financial stress, the financial worry, the habits, and all of that. They need to be able to address those things. Okay. You can go to a financial mindset coach, but typically they just address mindset, right? They may not necessarily be addressing some practical things. So just be mindful of that. Know what you need exactly. And you might find a unicorn like me who is all of that, right? Who's the person that can assist you with your mindset, who's the person who can also strategize and help you with the plan. Because listen, your thinking has gotten you to where you are now. Okay. And so you need other things that you may never have ever thought about. Okay. Fresh new insight. All right. So talk to someone. All right. I could say more about that, but we'll leave it there. Tip number 2, you want to take inventory of your finances. Now, this is the last thing. Hey, Bishop Alfred, good to see you. This is the last thing that people want to do when they are going through it financially is to take financial inventory. That's the last thing we want to do. We do not want to sit down and look at our financial statements, bank statements, our credit card statements, and all of those things. We don't want to do it. Why? Because it reminds us of the mess that we are in. That's the mindset that you approach. However, the mindset should be, okay, I'm going to sit down and look at these things because I have to know where I am in order for me to get where I want to go. Because you cannot get where you want. If you get in your car and you're going to use GPS to go somewhere, you cannot enter the destination, but not the starting point. I don't know what your experience has been, but my GPS usually wants a starting point. Okay. And so that's what taking inventory is. It's entering the starting point into the GPS. Okay. And so if you are having someone that's going to help you professionally, thank you, Apostle. Thank you so much for that. If you're going to have someone that's going to help you professionally, they need to know where you are. So yes, they're going to ask you, all right, I need those, the last 3 bank statements. I'm going to need this. I'm going to need that. It might be quite a few documents. I'm going to need your credit card statements based on, what obligations and things you have. I'm going to need your mortgage statement. I'm going to need this. I'm going to need that. Yes, they may need it. And, look, you'll be like, oh my gosh, this is a lot. Or I just don't want to do this because I don't want to look at it, right? And so some people give up right at that point, right? Because you just don't want to confront it. Just don't want to face it. right? And there's nothing that you can overcome if you don't face it. You got to face it. You can't go around it, under it, over it. You have to face it, right? But again, it's all about the mindset. If you're looking and saying, okay, you know what? I'm going to take inventory because I'm excited about knowing where I am so I can get to where I want to go. Because it's part of the process. It can't be done without it, right? So taking financial inventory is huge, okay? You cannot begin to put a solid plan together without it. It just doesn't happen. And if you go to a financial professional and you don't tell them everything, then you're going to get a plan that is not necessarily, that isn't, I don't want to say not necessarily, it isn't going to get you where you want to go. Right? So the starting point is huge. Take inventory of your finances. Okay. Then the next thing is now you can make a plan. And again, I advise, because your thinking has gotten you where you are today, right? And you only know so much, right? So I advise that you seek out a professional to help you in making this plan and to hold you accountable to sticking to it. Now, I've talked to people who said, I can hold myself accountable. I don't need anyone to hold me accountable. And what I say to that is prepare for failure, okay? Because we will oftentimes give ourselves excuses. All right, yeah, you know, blah, blah, blah. I was supposed to do this. I'll start tomorrow. I was supposed to, all right, next week. I was supposed to, our next payday. You know what, next month. You know what, next year, January 1 is a good time to get started. So I'll start January 1. Some of you have already given up on this year. Some of you have already given up. You had some financial goals in place. It's August. You haven't hit them and you've given up. You're just like, you know what? This is the goal for 2024. Right? And so you need to have someone that you can, that will help you to establish a solid plan, a plan that works, and someone that will hold you accountable. That's right, Bishop Alfred. We got to be willing to seek the help, right? All right. So make your plan, stick to it. And then maybe one of the last two things I'll say. The last thing that I will say is that, because I already know that some of you, when you're hearing this, you're like, oh, but it costs money to seek that help. And the Bible speaks to this. I don't have the exact scripture, but you can Google it, the scripture location. You can Google it. But the Bible talks about the value of wisdom and understanding. And it talks about how you should give everything you have for wisdom, for understanding. Some of you are thinking about, if I've got to get a professional, the money that I have to spend, but you are not thinking about the results that person can get you over time. If you are in a situation right now, and you've been in this situation, maybe like me, from 2008 to 2011, so about 3 years, right? Or maybe you've been in your situation a little longer or a little less. Doesn't matter. What would you pay? What would the value be, right? To get some help from someone that can help you get out of that and build generational wealth, not just wealth for you in your time right now, but wealth that is sustainable and wealth that will last through the generations. How much is that worth to you? How much is your peace of mind worth to you? How much is getting sleep at night worth to you? How much is having healthy relationships worth to you? How much is your physical stamina and your ability to get around and your ability to do things and, the ability to be healthy? How much is that worth to you How much is your overall quality of life worth to you? Because I promise you, if you're like me, I'm like, all this stuff is priceless, right? So the dimes that I've spent to get where I am today and be on the path to where God is still taking me, they're, like I said, they're pennies and dimes. They're drops in the bucket. May not seem like it in the moment, but they're drops in the bucket for the abundance that is to come. And so sometimes you got to be able to think beyond the here and now. You got to be able to see beyond the here and now. And if you can't see beyond the here and now, then you need to trust God because he sees beyond the here and now. And I told someone this earlier today. If we say God is who he says he is, all powerful, all knowing, all seeing, has our best interests at heart, wants to see us, prosper, so that not just because, so that we could be effective members of the kingdom and solve kingdom problems. If that's the God that you serve, then you ought to be able to trust his sight, even though you can't see. You ought to be able to trust his vision for your life, even though you can't see right now. Right now, you may not be able to see above all the bills and all that kind of stuff, right? But if you can just see, or if you can just allow God to be your eyes for you, then you'll be able to get the help that you need. Anyway, I didn't want to turn this, into an hour of preaching or anything like that. But I just wanted to address this because I know so many people that are going through this, right? And so because a lot of people are going through these things, I decided, I'm like, look, I'm going to do something here. I'm going to do a 2-hour masterclass. And I don't do them very often. I do them maybe twice a year. I'm not even sure that I've done one this year. Maybe I've done one. But anyway, I decided I'm going to do this 2-hour masterclass, complimentary. Okay. The only thing that it's going to cost you is to take a moment to register and then 2 hours of your time. This masterclass is occurring on August 15th at 7 p.m. Eastern, right? And though it's free, you're going to have to register. All right. Though it's free, you're going to have to register. And in this masterclass, what we're going to be talking about is five steps to an unshakable cash reserve. 5 steps to an unshakable cash reserve. We're going to be addressing mindset. We're going to be addressing practical steps, step-by-step things that you can do to build a cash reserve. And whether you are a person who's really conservative about your money or you good, with taking calculated risk, it doesn't matter. There's going to be something for everybody, right? And you're going to know by the time you're done with those 2 hours on Tuesday, you are going to know the way out. God has in his word very practical steps for becoming wealthy. And he wants us to, because the kingdom needs us wealthy. And the reason the kingdom needs us wealthy is because there are a lot of problems in this world. And a lot of these problems, it takes money. A lot of these problems, it takes money. It may not only take money, but a lot of these problems take money, right? So we need our kingdom wealth builders. We need our kingdom wealth builders. Our kingdom, you are a kingdom wealth builder. If you're watching this, you are a kingdom wealth builder. So I want you to join me Tuesday night. I'm going to put the link. Let me see. Where am I? There we go. That's the link. Okay. That's the link. Take a picture of it. Okay. Go to the link right now and register. Okay. The information that I'm going to be giving, I'm just going to be honest. I charge thousands of dollars. People in my coaching classes now paying thousands of dollars, right? But they're not paying thousands of dollars just to line my pockets. Because listen, I don't pay the bills. Okay, Mr. Johnson pays all the bills. I can do whatever I want with my money. So the money is not a need for me to do anything with, right? I do this because I love it. I do this because I'm passionate about making kingdom wealth builders. I do this because I don't want to see people struggling, right? So there are people who have seen that it is wise, right, to pay for the information that I have, because them following the steps is going to get them the generational wealth that they desire. So anyway, this is a 2-hour complimentary class. Go and register right now. Okay. All right. So I've already moved into like what's coming up next. And so that's one of the things. Okay. So go register for the masterclass. The next thing that I want to share with you is that every year I take a group of missionaries and we go do mission work. This is why we need Kingdom Wealth Builders. This is why we need you. Okay, we need you to be healthy in your finances. So every year we go on an international mission trip. This year we already had a team that went to Ghana. They just returned about a week ago. They went and they served well, and they had a wonderful time. We have a team going next month, September, to Kenya, and we are still taking donations for that team. And so the link is there in the on the screen. Okay, so screenshot that. Go and give a donation. Okay, one of the things in the kingdom, one of the laws, it's not even just about kingdom. This is just it's a law, like giving. Okay, giving affects your finances. It just does. And when we talk on, if you join me in the masterclass, I'm going to tell you exactly how. So anyway, give. There's no amount that's too small, and there's also no amount too big. Okay. So if you have it like that, please go and donate. We are one of the major projects that we are doing. We want to serve 500 people. We want to give them a pair of Crocs and a pair of socks. Okay, I won't get into all the details why that's one of the projects, but you can follow and check out our other posts for that. But we want to give at least 500 people one pair of Crocs and one pair of socks. And in order to do that, it costs, I believe, just $4, $4, okay, to give someone a pair of Crocs and socks. So why don't can you sponsor 10? Can you give $40? Right? Can you sponsor 5 and give $20? Can you sponsor more than 40? It doesn't matter, right? Help us be a blessing. You are a kingdom wealth builder. Even if you have not realized wealth just yet, the practice of giving is always great, no matter where you are in your finances, right? So anyway, we thank you so much ahead of time for those of you who have donated and those of you who will donate. We thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. I thank you for those of you who tuned in today to this episode of The Wealth Seed. I pray that, I already know, right? I know that the information is helpful, but I pray that you will take this information and that you will apply it and that you will also share it with others. All right. And then we'll see you next week with another exciting episode of The Wealth Seed. Until then, God bless you. We'll see you next time. Peace.